Dear 11th class economic students, Assalamu alaikum. In this lecture, we are going to discuss questionnaire method of collecting primary data. Dear students, in our previous lecture, we discussed three important methods of collecting primary data, which are direct personal investigation, indirect oral investigation, and information from local sources or correspondents. Another important method for collection of primary data, which we could not cover in our previous lecture, is questionnaire method of collecting primary data or information through questionnaires and schedules. Dear students, under questionnaire method of collecting primary data, the investigator prepares a questionnaire keeping in view the objectives of the inquiry. That is, he prepares a questionnaire keeping in view the purpose of investigation. What's questionnaire? Students, questionnaire is a list of questions which is being prepared by the investigator related to the problem under investigation with a choice of answers. Under this method, that is under the questionnaire method of collecting primary data, there are two important ways of collecting information. Number first is mailed questionnaire method or mailing method. Number second is enumerators method. Let us first discuss the mailed questionnaire method. Dear students, in mailed questionnaire method, the investigator will formulate a list of questions which are directly or indirectly related with the purpose of investigation. After that, the questionnaire is sent to the various informants by post. A covering letter is attached with the questionnaire giving the purpose of inquiry, where it is also ensured that the information given by the respondents would be kept secret, and a request is made to the informants through this covering letter to fill up the questionnaire and send it back within a specific period of time. The informant notes the answers against the questions and returns the completed questionnaire to the investigator. Dear students, the mailed questionnaire method is most suitable when the area of study is very wide or vast, and particularly when the informants are educated. Now coming to the merits and demerits of this method. Dear students, firstly, we will discuss the merits of mailed questionnaire method. The first important advantage of mailed questionnaire method is that the method is economical in terms of money, in terms of time, and in terms of efforts involved. Means this method is relatively cheap and expeditious provided the informants respond in time. Students, as the information is supplied by the concerned persons themselves, this method is original and therefore more reliable. Another important merit of this method is that the method allows wide coverage of the area of study. That is, this method of collecting data can be easily adopted where the field of investigation is very vast. Now, the demerits or the limitations of this method. Students, the first important limitation of this method is related to the lack of interest by the informants. Usually, the informants do not take interest in questionnaire, thus they either fail to return the questionnaire or send questionnaire with incomplete answers. Hence, the conclusions based on such investigation have only limited accuracy, or we can say this method is less accurate. Dear students, this method has limited use owing to the fact that the questionnaire can be answered only by the educated informants, which means that this method can be adopted only where the informants are literate people. Thus, this method cannot be used when the informants are illiterate or uneducated. Another important demerit of this method is the lack of flexibility. Dear students, this method lacks flexibility. For example, when questions are not properly replied, these cannot be changed to obtain the required information, as the questionnaire has already been sent to the informants by post. Lastly, the information collected through this method can be biased if the informants are biased. Now, dear students, coming to another important way of collecting primary data on the basis of questionnaire, that is the enumerators method. Dear students, in this method, that is in enumerators method of collecting primary data, the investigator will formulate a list of questions related to his inquiry. That is, the questionnaire is being prepared by the investigator according to the purpose of investigation. After that, the questionnaire, also called as schedule, is sent through the enumerators or interviewers. Means that the questionnaire prepared by the investigator, which is also called schedule in case of the enumerators method, is being sent to the informants or respondents through enumerators. Who are enumerators? Enumerators are the persons who help the investigators in collecting the data. They are given proper training to fill the schedules and put the questions appropriately to the informants in order to obtain the desired information. The enumerators contact the informants, get replies to the questions, and then hand over filled schedules to the investigator. Dear students, the questionnaire which are filled by the enumerators themselves by putting questions to the respondents are called schedules. Now the merits and demerits of enumerators method. Firstly, the merits of this enumerators method. Dear students, there is a fair degree of accuracy in results by using the enumerators method, as the investigation is done by specialized and trained enumerators. This method also allows wide coverage of the area of study, and even illiterate people can furnish the required information. Another important merit of this method is that under this method there is personal contact with the informants, and hence accurate and right answers are obtained. Dear students, as the enumerators themselves do not need the required information because they are only helping the investigators in the collection of data, so the enumerators are impartial to the nature of information that they obtain. Students' schedules have the merit of completeness because these are filled in by the enumerators themselves. That is, the researcher can get the complete answers of all the questions in questionnaire. Now the demerits or limitations of enumerators method. Dear students, the first important limitation of enumerators method is that this method is very expensive method of investigation because of the involvement of training investigators. That is, this method is very much expensive method. This method is also a time-consuming method. Enumerators need specialized training for carrying out the investigation. Thus, the process of investigation becomes time-consuming. Students, this method is not suitable for private investigation. Since this method is very expensive, it is generally not suitable for private investigations. Such inquiries can be usually conducted by government institutions only. For example, population census in our country is conducted by this method. These are some of the merits and demerits of enumerators method. Now, coming to the qualities of a good questionnaire. What should be the qualities of a good questionnaire? In this slide, the important qualities of a good questionnaire are being mentioned here. Students, the success of the questionnaire method, it depends to a large extent on proper drafting of the questionnaire, Drafting of the questionnaire is a highly specialized job and needs a lot of skills and experience. The important qualities which an investigator should keep in mind before drafting a questionnaire are being mentioned in this slide. Number first is the covering letter. Students, a very polite covering letter should be sent to the respondents with the questionnaire. The covering letter should emphasize the need and usefulness of the information that is being collected and should request them, that is the informants, to give their cooperation by sending correct replies. A self-addressed and stamped envelope should also be enclosed for the respondent's convenience in sending the reply. Another important quality of a good questionnaire is the limited number of questions. Students, number of questions in the questionnaire should not be very large. Unnecessary details should be avoided and only relevant questions should be framed. So the number of questions in a questionnaire should be limited and relevant to the nature of inquiry. Another important quality of a questionnaire is the questions should be placed in proper order. That is, the questions must be placed in a proper and logical order so that a natural and spontaneous reply to each question is induced from the informants. Students, undesirable and controversial questions must be avoided. These questions should not be asked to the informants. The questions should not offend the informants. Moreover, questions of a personal nature should not be asked because the respondents in that very case would either not give information or give incorrect information. Dear students, questions involving mathematical calculation by the respondents must be avoided because the respondent may not wish to undertake this hectic task. Investigator himself should do the calculation job. Another important quality of a good questionnaire is that the questions in the questionnaire should not be confusing. Those questions should be capable of a straight answer. As far as possible, the questions should be capable of objective answers. A set of possible answers may be given against each question, and the respondent may be asked to take the appropriate answer. Dear students, a questionnaire must show clear instructions for filling in the form. It should provide necessary instructions to the informants. For example, the questionnaire should specify the time within which it should be sent back and the address it should be sent. Students, lastly, informants should also be requested to return the questionnaire within a specific period of time. So, dear students, these are some of the qualities of a good questionnaire. So, before drafting a questionnaire, the researcher or investigator should keep these points or these qualities in mind. Thank you, dear students.